Hey, what's up everyone? It's Duskmos, and today I'm taking a look at the all-new, brand-new Old Blood Noise Endeavor's MTET, or MIDI to Expression Translator. So the MTET, or MTET as I've been calling it for no real reason other than I just enjoy it for some reason, is a really interesting little box. And I say little, it's not that little, I mean it's kind of little, it's the size of a normal, typical effect pedal. So it's pedal board friendly, which is nice. But it's interesting because it takes incoming MIDI signals and converts them to expression outputs that you can use for your pedals. So really any pedal that has an expression input that allows external control, you can now do that with MIDI, sending CC messages through this little box. And that's pretty cool because it gives a certain level of like recallability or modulation that you can apply to those expression inputs that can be controlled from something other than, a device that is either like one of the foot pedals or, something else that is providing like an expression or LFO type thing. But you can do it instead with a MIDI controller or hook it up to your computer or another device that can send MIDI CCs. And that's really cool. It really opens the door for the kind of controllability of pedals that you have that maybe don't have all the features that maybe you're looking for. Okay, so let's take a look at the ports and lights and all that good stuff. Okay, so on the bottom edge here, you've got a MIDI in, a MIDI through, and the 9-volt power point, and it uses center negative just like all your effects pedals do. And then on this top here, you've got 4 TRS jacks that work as your expression outs, which is cool. And then on the front face of it, you can see there's these 2 rows of LEDs. You've got 4 up top that are different colors that show you which expression is receiving information. And then you've got the MIDI in, through, and power lights. In and through, you'll see will flash as they are receiving MIDI information, and then the corresponding expression light will also flash. And so you'll see that in my demo here in a second. The lights will also tell you what MIDI channel you're on, so when you give it power, you'll see power light lights up, and then you'll get a series of flashes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that my MTET is set to MIDI channel 5. You can of course change that to whatever MIDI channel you want, but it's just cool that on power up it lets you know what it's set to, so there's no mistakes. Another sort of setup thing to note is that expression uses TRS cables, so that's this type of cable where you've got the separation, so it can understand the differences in voltages between them, and I won't get into the details of how that works, but just make sure when you're setting this up that you're using TRS jacks. Okay, so now I'm going to get this set up with my Electron Syntact, and I'm going to use that to send MIDI CC information to the MTET out to 2 different pedals, and we're just going to see how it all works. Let's check it out. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the OBNE, MTET, the MTET, all wired up here with a pretty diverse spread of tools. And yeah, that includes the Syntact, which is sending the MIDI information to the MTET, and the Count to 5 from Montreal Assembly, doing some glitchy looping delay type pitch stuff, and Old Blood Noise Endeavor's own Sunlight for some interesting reverb feedback type action. So we're going to put all this into practice with this setup here and just kind of see what we can get into by controlling the expression inputs with the MTET from the Syntact. So right now both pedals are bypassed entirely. I'm just going to play the clean pattern, which is extremely sparse and simple. But that's because these add a ton in between the notes. So I want to leave some space there to let it get filled out by everything that's going to go on here. So right now I have value 1 set to CC1, which is going out to expression 1 out to the count to 5. And then CC2 going to expression 2, which is going to the sunlight. I did it that way because signal routing is going into the count to 5 first and then the sunlight, so it made sense to me for it to be 1 and then 2. So go ahead and activate the count to 5. So you can hear it's almost just like a pitched, slowed down delay kind of set up here right now. But I can change that speed of that playback, or the pitch, by changing the CC value. And this has its own buffer that's doing some crazy stuff right now with this feedback. You can hear it really go to town. We can change the value up. Pretty crazy stuff. You can change the length of this buffer here. And turn the feedback down. So we have a pitch where it's basically a full octave up, so it'll play nice with the notes. A little bit more feedback here. Alright, so value 2 is set, as I mentioned, to the sunlight. So let's engage that and hear how that sounds. And we'll dial that in with this second CC. Pretty crazy stuff. It's cool because you could automate those values. For example, go ahead and bypass this. You could automate those values if you had a device that could do that, send an LFO to the CC level and, dynamically kind of change what you're sending out, which is a really cool use case for the MTET. Or, for example, if you're using pedals with like your DAW and you want to send that information from your computer to pedals, then you can do that, which is pretty wild. That's a really cool implementation that I don't know that was possible before or something like this. I mean, I haven't really seen much that is doing what this is doing out in the wild, and that's really cool. Okay, so now I'm going to try another pattern out and just see what we can get and just mess around a little more. All right, I've got my second pattern set up here. Let's see what we could get into with the syntax controlling these two via the MTET. So this is what it sounds like clean. Bring in the sunlight. Pretty cool. Let's tweak it. try a different mode on the sunlight. Here's controlling the rate. That's cool. It's like the sample and hold pass mode. Pretty crazy stuff. And being controlled via MIDI. Which again, you could probably program depending on what device you're using to send different values out and jump between settings. I'm just kind of mimicking that here by moving both these knobs at the same time. It's pretty cool. You could do stuff like this. We just send weird little things, which might be hard to try to do on the fly otherwise. Could go and stop it there, but really the best part of it, I think, is that you can sort of make pedals that don't have a built-in memory or anything like that recallable. So you could recall those values depending on how you have your CC set up or your expression set up via the CCs, and that's a really cool thing. The MTET is a really cool little box. It really opens up the possibilities for pedals and letting you control them in a different way, which is really cool. Obviously having the MIDI through, as I mentioned, I think more than once in the video, that's a nice convenience feature, so you don't have to, lose a MIDI jack to this device. It doesn't stop here. And then obviously having 4 expression outputs is really convenient as well. You can host a whole symphony of pedals here and control them with whatever sort of MIDI controller you have set up. Really cool, really interesting concept, and I think something that I think might be pretty useful for a lot of people. I think using it with a computer might be really interesting. Being able to, again, send some of those sort of automations to pedals from a device that you wouldn't really expect to be able to control pedals. So that's really cool. Just kind of bridging that communication gap is a really neat thing. Also, shout out to OBNE Nevers for sending this out for me to share with you all on the channel today. Really cool, and it's just awesome seeing companies kind of think outside of the box and provide new tools that allow us to be creative and get everything working together, which is sometimes pretty complicated. So really cool. And yeah, anyway, that's going to be it for me this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.